Education for the longest time has been the benefit of tourism. Still,
Mr. Speaker, these things are not new.
and the honorable member is skilled in the manipulation of falsehood.
It was for the first time that we had accomplished
$400 million of CIP money should not be given
for loans without a government guarantee.
And so we have to ensure that they are infrastructurally robust.
Nou pa ka jwen ki la ni moun ki ka chebe wed pou.
Welcome to Eye on Parliament, a production of the Government Information Service. I'm your host for today, Jacques Kingston Compton. Eye on Parliament offers a closer look at the third session of the 11th Parliament. In addition to our live coverage on NTN, please also tune into our live stream on our YouTube channel, which you can find at St. Lucian Government, or on our Facebook page. Now, today's proceedings scheduled to be debated in the House of Assembly are 9 motions as well as 2 bills. Now, if I could briefly read through the 9 motions scheduled to be debated later on today. The motions for consideration are as follows. That Parliament, this is number 1, that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to amend the loan agreement and to borrow from the Caribbean Development Bank an amount not exceeding US $11,228,000, consisting of a special funds resources portion in the amount of US $4,065,000, an ordinary capital resources portion in the amount of US $2,163,000, and an Agence Française de Développement credit facility portion in the amount of US $5 million. In this resolution, referred to as the amending loan agreement for the purpose of financing the 8th Dennery North Water Supply Redevelopment Project. The second motion due to be debated in the House of Assembly is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow by any means of advances sums not exceeding $55 million from commercial banks for a period of 6 months from date hereof, which sums shall be charged on and paid out to the consolidated fund. The third motion down for debate today is that Parliament authorizes the Attorney General to make the revised edition of the law's 2014 supplement to the revised edition of the law's commencement or amendment order to offer for the sale to the public the revised edition of the laws in the form of a loose leaf, CD-ROM, or other forms of electronic storage, and pages at the price set out in the order. The fourth motion down for debate is that Parliament authorizes the Minister responsible for Finance to borrow US $2 million by way of a loan from the International Development Association to finance the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Micro, Small, and Medium-Sized Enterprise Guarantee Facility Project. The fifth motion down for consideration is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow EC $3,301,324.50 from the First National Bank St. Lucia Limited for capital expenditure for infrastructural development. The sixth motion down for debate, that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow EC $32,603,000, again from the First National Bank of St. Lucia Limited, for capital expenditure to finance the 2018-2019 budget. The seventh motion, that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to guarantee a line of credit in the amount of EC $20 million towards the repayment of a loan obtained by the St. Lucia Development Bank from National Insurance Corporation for on-lending to the housing and productive sectors. Number 8, that will be the eighth motion down for debate, that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow another US $20 million by way of credit in this resolution referred to as the credit from the International Development Association for capital expenditure for the Health System Strengthening Project. The ninth and final motion down for debate today is that Parliament, by affirmative resolution, approves the draft value-added tax or amendment of Schedule 3 order, which amends Schedule 3 of the Act to exempt imports of personal items, food, clothing, toys, and other household consumables contained in barrels, and B, imports of altar supplies by the Roman Catholic Church in 2013. Now, those are the 9 motions scheduled to be debated in the House of Assembly today, as I mentioned. And to get to the 2 bills that are scheduled after the 9 motions are to be debated, the 2 bills are the Child Justice Bill and the Child Care and Adoption Bill. Now, the purpose for the latter, the Child Care Protection and Adoption Bill of a child, is to ensure that the child's best interests is of paramount consideration, especially when dealing with adoption. Now, I'm sure this will be debated and explained in full during the session, but what the bill clearly defines are the roles of adoption agencies, as well as the Ministry and the Department of Human Services in the process of adoption and ensuring that the child is protected during the entire process. The Child Justice Bill main purpose, on the other hand, is to establish a judicial process applicable to a child in conflict with the law and to protect the rights of the child. One of the main interesting aspects of the bill, which I am sure will be discussed, is the age of criminal responsibility. Now, what the age of criminal responsibility means is the age that a child the criminal responsibility clause of the bill proposes that the age of 12 should be the age of criminal responsibility. However, the bill will also take into consideration many mechanisms to continue to protect the rights of the child who is in custody over committing a criminal offense. Now, it is time to take a quick break, but we will be back shortly with our continued discussion here on Eye on Parliament to discuss the parliamentary proceedings for today.
I'm so fed up with my 14-year-old child. She's driving me crazy. I just don't know what to do.
All that child needs is some good licks to wake up.
Alice, ignore the counseling Pansy is giving. Government employees have free access to professional counseling services under the Employee Assistance Program known as EAP.
EAP? EAP? What's that? Not me that telling people my business.
Listen to me, Alice. I was struggling with my child. I made an appointment to see an EAP counselor, and I was very satisfied with the service that I received. And you know what? Up to a day like today, my information remains confidential.
Cox, how come nobody in the office knew anything about your counseling?
That's because EAP counselors, they work under strict clauses of confidentiality. I know you know what confidential means.
EAP providing professional counseling services? How much is it?
Girl, the counseling is free. Free for you, free for your child. And you know what? Your information remains confidential. Call the EAP unit at the Ministry of the Public Service. Telephone number 468-2269 for more information.
EAP works. Let it work for you.
Welcome back to Eye on Parliament. I am your host, Jacques Kingston Compton. Eye on Parliament discusses the parliamentary proceedings scheduled for today. Before the break, I brought to your attention the 2 bills scheduled for debate today. They are the Child Justice Bill as well as the Child Care and Adoption Bill. Now, the 2 bills were actually discussed at length in a panel discussion shot and recorded right here in our GIS studios, which you can view on our YouTube channel at St. Lucia Government, as well as our Facebook page. Now, it was actually not too long ago that the GIS also sat down with the Clerk of Parliament, Lindell Gustav, who provided an example on what a bill is exactly and the 3 types of bills that can be put forward. So our studio will play this very short clip to discuss in full detail what a bill is and its different stages.
A bill is a draft law which is submitted to Parliament for its approval. There are actually different types of bills. We have public bills, then we have public members' bills, and we have the private members' bills. These are basically the three main bills we have which can be submitted to Parliament.
What are the difference between those three?
Well, the public bill is the bills which are submitted by the government. And you have the private members' bill, which are bills which can be submitted by individual members in the House of Assembly, like the opposition members can submit a bill. Private bills are bills that can be submitted by the citizens of St. Lucia.
So I can submit a bill?
Yes, which has to go through the Attorney General's office for rectification before the bill can come into Parliament.
Because we see a lot of the times the bills being discussed in the House, and a lot of people are not aware that as an individual, if I have a bill, I can submit it for consideration to Parliament. And so are only members of the lower house or the House of Assembly able to propose a bill?
No, you mean you're talking in the context of the Senate?
Yes.
Okay, a bill can be read a first time in the Senate. The Senate can actually pass the first reading of a bill.
So you can actually propose a bill in the Senate?
A bill can be read a first time in the Senate. And then come to the House of Assembly for the members of the House of Assembly to approve the bill. Yes, it can be done that way.
And you're talking about first reading. So let's go into the stages of the bill, because we do hear when Parliament is broadcast, well, this is up for first reading and second reading. Tell us about the stages that a bill has to go through before it's approved by Parliament.
Okay, a bill has to go through 3 stages. The first reading, the second reading, and the third reading. The first reading is just the introduction of the bill. So the minister that's presenting the bill comes into Parliament and said he'd like to present the bill for first reading, in which the clerk stands up just to announce the bill for first reading. Because after that bill is read the first time, what's supposed to be done is that the bill is supposed to be published in the Gazette so that members of the public are aware and familiar with the contents of the bill. At the next sitting, the bill is presented for second reading, and that is where the debate comes in on the bill, at the second reading. And when the debate is done, the Prime Minister sums up his rebuttal.
Or whoever's proposing
Whoever proposed the bill sums up the debates, and the Speaker now puts the question that the bill be read a second time. And then he goes down to committee stage, and in committee stage, any amendments which members think should be made to the bill can be made during committee stage.
Let's talk about committee stage, because we do see this in Parliament. You have the presiding officer sitting at the helm in the chair.
Yeah.
But then at committee stage, you see the presiding officer take a step down.
Yes.
Why is that?
Okay, when he is up, actually the House is in session, so the miss is actually visible, is present. But when he comes down to committee stage, we have to lower the miss because the House is no longer in session. We're just in committee. So that is where all the amendments and the changes and the modifications to the bill can be made.
So what's the significance of the miss? Because we talk about the miss being up, we talk about the miss being down.
The miss is the authority of Parliament. Without the miss being there can be no Parliament.
And that is why
the authority of Parliament.
And that is why the sergeant at arms, when he enters the chamber with the presiding officer, he's carrying the miss.
He's carrying the miss.
That is to signify that Parliament is in session.
Is in session.
Okay,
yes.
Let's go back to committee stage. So the changes are made at the committee stage.
Yes.
How is it done? Because I know when there's a presiding officer, he usually has to call upon a member to speak. At committee stage, is that the same? At
committee stage, once the member puts on his lights and the speaker recognizes the member can speak and suggest his changes to the bill.
And there you have it, a very concise explanation as to what a bill is and how the bill goes through its various steps before it becomes enacted as a law. And that interview was conducted by the GIS's very own Alicia Ali, who interviewed the Clerk of Parliament not too long ago about the various stages of a bill. Now, I hope you stay tuned to the National Television Network for the scheduled debate of the House of Assembly on the 9 motions that I mentioned earlier, as well as the 2 bills, the Child Care Adoption Bill, as well as the Child Justice Bill. Now, before we do get into the live broadcast straight from the House of Parliament, the NTN will broadcast the panel discussion I discussed with you much earlier, where I sat down with, among many other women, the Director of Human Services, Elizabeth Lewis, as we discussed the 2 bills which are scheduled for debate today. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching Eye on Parliament.